now your brain is treating those ambitious New Year's resolutions with the exact same biological alarm system it uses to protect you from a physical predator. It is wild to think about, but your sweeping plans for self-improvement are literally scaring your own nervous system.
Yeah, it explains a lot about mid-February, doesn't it? I
Yeah.
mean, we set these towering expectations, but the moment real life introduces just like a tiny bit of friction, that whole monumental structure just completely collapses.
Right. And that is the exact mission of our deep dive today. We've got a stack of sources here, ranging from clinical neuroscience journals on habit formation to texts on Japanese behavioral philosophy, just to uncover why these grand life overhauls fail so reliably.
We really do.
We're also exploring how a concept called Kaizen, which translates to continuous, incredibly small change for the better, actually rewires that failure loop. Okay, let's unpack this.
Well, to understand the failure rate, we really have to look at how your brain processes change. It comes down to the amygdala, your brain's fight or flight center.
Right.
When you contemplate a substantial life shift,
Like changing a career or something.
exactly, or starting a grueling fitness regimen, your amygdala perceives that scale of change as a massive, energy-intensive threat.
Wait, really? So it is not just a metaphor? My brain actually views the sudden desire to, say, write a novel as a literal danger to my survival.
Precisely. From a biological standpoint, radical change is unfamiliar and, well, risky. To protect you, the amygdala actively floods your system with fear, resistance, and procrastination.
Wow.
Yeah, it definitely wants to keep you safe inside your predictable routines because those require far less caloric energy to maintain.
So, I mean, it is not a lack of willpower. We are fighting a biological alarm system, which brings us to Kaizen. If grand goals trigger the alarm, Kaizen is basically a stealth mission for your brain.
The stealth mission, I like that.
Right, by shrinking your goals down to ridiculously microscopic sizes, like deciding you will only write exactly 50 words or just sit and reflect for 2 minutes, you sneak your new habit right under the amygdala's threat radar.
Because your brain doesn't register a 2-minute task as an energy drain, so it doesn't sound the alarm. There is no fear response, which means no resistance. You bypass the roadblock entirely.
I get the stealth aspect, totally. But if the action is so microscopic that my brain completely ignores it, does it actually achieve anything meaningful? I mean, 50 words a day feels painfully slow if you are trying to write a book.
What's fascinating here is the underlying mathematics of compounding growth. We aren't just making a linear addition.
Okay.
If you commit to improving by just 1% every single day, the math is honestly staggering. Over the course of 1 year, a 1% daily improvement, which is calculated as 1.01 to the power of 365, creates a 37.8-fold improvement.
Wait, almost 38 times better?
Nearly a 38 times positive shift, yeah, just from showing up for that tiny micro habit.
That compounding curve is incredibly steep. But the inverse must be true as well, right?
Yes, unfortunately. If you neglect those habits and decline by just 1% daily, so 0.99 to the power of 365, it compounds downward to almost absolute zero.
Oh, wow.
It hits 0.03. So the trajectory between living with deep purpose, what the Japanese call your Ikigai, and sliding into chronic burnout, isn't dictated by dramatic leaps. It is dictated by that daily mathematical fraction.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Mathematically, it is sound, but how do you guarantee you hit that 1% positive shift daily without relying on the very willpower we just established doesn't work?
Well, you remove willpower from the equation entirely by utilizing habit stacking, but looking at it through a neurobiological lens. You take your new microhabit and you anchor it to a deeply ingrained routine. You are essentially piggybacking on existing neural pathways.
Right, so instead of trying to forge a brand new routine out of thin air, I attach a 2-minute habit to something automatic, like my morning coffee brewing.
Exactly. You are pairing an established trigger with a tiny positive choice, which the amygdala already views as safe and familiar.
But let's be real here. If I'm habit stacking a 2-minute brainstorming session with my coffee, how do I stay motivated when the output is so tiny? Writing down 3 bullet points for a side business barely feels like progress.
That is where the sources introduce the concept of kodawari. It is the psychological mechanism of finding meticulous pride in the small details.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the Kaizen and kodawari approach shifts your focus away from the intimidating final product.
Right.
You don't worry about building an entire website today. You take immense pride in the craftsmanship of just writing those 3 excellent bullet points during your lunch break.
Because it is about protecting that tiny momentum. So what does this all mean? It means you don't need boundless energy or a perfect plan to achieve your Ikigai. Bypassing your brain's biological fear of change is the hardest part.
Yeah, exactly. Once you sneak past the amygdala, the rest is really just letting that compounding math do the heavy lifting for you.
And that's the real revelation here. You don't have to fight your own biology.
No, you just have to be willing to take one carefully crafted, microscopic step today.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to chew on. What massive goal have you been putting off, and how can you shrink it into a microscopic 2-minute action to complete within the next 24 hours to trigger your own 37-fold transformation?